top 5 signs that you have romantasy rot. Number 1, you spend more time on romance fantasy wikis than you do on current events. Who's the president again? Hey Google, what's a tariff? Number 2, you're disappointed when you go to spend time with your significant other and, oh no, shadows don't pin you down. Number 3, you're getting bored with your significant other because how dare they not be over 1,000 years old, have a tendency for violence, and overly possessive qualities. Number 4, TikTok knows you so well that it no longer shows you teaser pop-ups for videos it thinks you want to see. It now says, hey slutbag, click here. We know you want to watch 30 seconds of absolute debauchery disguised as literature. Number 5, you clicked on this video on how to fix your romantasy rot. So remember, it's not clickbait if it's true. Hey everyone, welcome to Reading Crossbow. My name is Lena, and if you're new here, we are a 2-person podcast. We read 2 books a month. I pick one, my co-host picks one, and we read those together each month with people on our Discord. So if you haven't joined our Discord and you want a reading club, join ours. And we also each do 1 solo episode. So that's what this is. This is my solo episode. And today I am talking about romantasy rot. So what is romantasy rot? Well, I don't have like a term for it. This is not in the dictionary, but I feel like we all know what it is. It's when you read so much romantasy that like it kind of just is overtaking your life. And I don't know if this has happened to you, but sometimes my partner will walk past me and be like, oh, are you on a spicy scene? You're making that face. I'm like, what? I have a face? Or, it's like things like that. And I feel like if you read too much of it. And you know what? There's wonderful parts of romantasy, fantasy, dragons, mythology, magic, things that we all love. But a lot of today's romantasy has just taken that extra step into, really, I feel like it's like old school romance, like the Jackie Collins stuff that I used to make fun of my mom for, right? And it's like, I was a child, like, oh yeah, that's my mommy's books I can't touch. And like we have that now. And I definitely have books on my shelf and I have a daughter, a teenager, where I'm like, you cannot touch that book. If I ever see you reading that book, you're in so much trouble, right? And so I feel like we've stepped kind of back actually into like the 80s, early 90s of like romance books. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing. It's where we are, and it's kind of funny when you think about it. And I don't want anyone to feel bad about watching this video of like, I'm totally making fun of you, because no, I'm totally making fun of myself. I don't have all the books behind me, but I read ACOTAR. I read all of Sarah J. Maas. I love the Fourth Wing series. I haven't really touched into those other series. Pull a couple books up on the screen, you know what I'm talking about. But who says I might not? I don't know. So I am not judging you, but I am here to help you by maybe bringing a couple other books into your life that can kind of break up the romantasy, take a step away, and maybe even see where some of those books got their inspiration from. So let's begin. So I have a couple different cures for you. We're going to have cures for shadow daddies, world building, and dragons. I have a lot of books on dragons here. I didn't put them all in front of me, but we're going to start off with shadow daddies. So if you love shadow daddies as much as I do, then you need to read Shadow and Bone. So this book came out in 2012 and Fourth Wing came out in 2023. So this has been out for a while, or was out for a while before Fourth Wing, before all these other Shadow Daddy books. I'm not sure if this is the first Shadow Daddy book. It probably isn't, but this is the first Shadow Daddy book that I read. And it's so popular that Netflix made it into a series. Now I have to say the male lead in the show for the Shadow Daddy isn't exactly how I pictured him in the book. I pictured him maybe a bit younger because he uses magic to keep himself young, because he's, of course, over 100 years old. But in the series, it's not bad looking either. But I definitely recommend that you read the book. The book is the first book in the Grishaverse, and the Grisha are a magical group of people that can manipulate elements. So they have fire wielders, water wielders, wind wielders. And then in this book, they're in a way also treating light and darkness as elements. And so the main character, whose name is Alina Starkov, she is the sun summoner. So and there hasn't been one, it's basically a prophecy. So she's able to summon and manipulate light. Well, now you can see the balance of this all. Whereas the Darkling, who's the shadow daddy, in this book, he can summon the shadows and the darkness, and he can actually manipulate them into monsters. So it's this really amazing world of good versus evil, but it's done in light versus dark, and it's done by the amazing Leigh Bardugo. I have one of her books behind me here that we've actually read on the show and have a review for, and that is The Familiar. And this is a recent publication, and it's really great. So she's a wonderful author, and I actually like the Six of Crows series better than I do the Shadow and Bone series, but Shadow and Bone is where you should start. And if you're looking for it to have love, have that romantic side of the books that we all love, don't worry, it does. It just has it in a way that's much less spicier, because maybe we need a spicy break, y'all. Like, let's just get into some good writing. Wait, did I just call out some of the newer books for romantasy for not having good writing? So I did. Anyway, good writing. It is one of the better magic systems that I've ever read. And those of you who've been on the show before know that I love the magic in the Mistborn series. It is so good. We're also reading another book called Red Sister, and that episode comes out next week. And I'm predicting that is going to be also probably one of my most loved magic systems. But I'm not sure yet. Haven't finished it. The episode will come out soon. Anyhow, great magic system. The world building there is fantastic. And then there's a lot of books after that one. Read Shadow and Bone if you like shadow daddies, and if you want a bit more substance than some of the newer shadow daddy books that have come out that are really just a bit trashy. All right, let's talk about world building. And this one isn't so much of a fix that needs fixed. This is more of, you love some other books, maybe like ACOTAR or Fourth Wing, where maybe the world building isn't quite as complex. Now, I'm not saying that so much about ACOTAR. I think the world building is actually really great in ACOTAR, but it doesn't go as deep and as rich as some other books that have come before it. So I wanted to bring up Mistborn. I talked about this a bit when I was talking about Shadow and Bone, because this has such a great magic system. But Mistborn is really fantastic. It's Brandon Sanderson. Brandon Sanderson, I don't know, has written 1,647 books, something like that. I think he writes a book every day. It's amazing. And they're all good. I don't even know how. So if you like the world building that is in your ACOTARs and your Fourth Wings, I have to say, this is not elves. This is not 1,000-year-old men who are super smoking hot, but it is just a really great world. It is a really wonderful magic system. They manipulate metals and ingest metals to give them powers, but not everybody can do it. It is absolutely fantastic. The lead female character, she comes into her powers and didn't even know she had them. And then she basically joins a group of bandits in a way, who are, well, really not upstanding citizens, to use their powers and unite together to overthrow a bad king. And it's just amazing. I cannot rave enough about this book. If you want a break, if your brain needs a romantasy rock break, then check out Mistborn. Also, on the note of world building, and I think some people might disagree with me on this, so I'm braced for that, is The Sword Catcher. So this is a newer book. This just came out in the last, I think, 2 years. It has a fun map. We love maps on our show. It's a beautiful book. And this is a book 1 in a series, and it's the only one out yet. Book 2, The Rag Picker King, comes out in March, so very soon. I have that on pre-order. We are going to cover it on the show. Rob and I are going to read that together because we read this book together on the show. And people are saying that this book was maybe a little bit too slow. The world building was too deep. There's a lot of exposition. The author Cassandra Clare, I've read a ton of her books. She wrote the Shadowhunter series, which is the Mortal Instruments. If you loved that, then I think you will love this. But there's not vampires, and there's not that kind of deep, dark creature underworld. But what is in here is a really interesting epic fantasy beginning of a story of a boy named Kel, who is a sword catcher, which means he quite literally is a body double for a prince, who's kind of a brat, by the way, that he has to step in for political events or like ceremonies or parades, just in case someone makes an attempt on the prince's life. And they have made an attempt on the prince's life. So he's like filled with holes and scars because people literally come after this poor boy. And he's at the point in his life now where I believe he's over 18, maybe 20, somewhere in there. And we're getting to where he's stepping into his own identity. And there's also magic in this world, but the magic is kind of funneled into one area, or sequestered, if you will, and only healers can use it. So then we also get the story of a young girl named Lynn, who's a healer, and she's been brought to heal him, right? Because he gets stabbed all the time. And we have a budding love story there. I don't know if it's going to be super spicy. It wasn't in book 1, so I might be making a bad choice here and telling you how to fix your romantasy rot, but the spice was minimal, 1 to 2 maybe. I suspect that will grow more because of the author and because I think she's moving to new adult, but it wasn't there for this book. It is a great first book, I think, into the world building. I have a feeling this is going to go much further, get bigger. If you want to dive into a big book series again, which I have a feeling is going to be up there with your Crescent Cities, that type of world building, but better writing, then I think this is the book for you. You're going to like it. It is fun. There is an evil side. There is subplots. There's a dark city. There's a criminal ring. There's the Ragpicker King, which is the second book that comes out, and he has a mysterious background. And Kel, the sword catcher, and Lynn, the healer, they're going to be working together with this like kingpin. And I'm just excited. I think you'll like it. All right. Our last fix for you. Our fix to fix the fix. So a lot of you have read Fourth Wing, and I'm going to guess you're into dragons right now. Well, hey, we all are. And you don't have to fix that fix. So when I say how to fix the brain rot, there's no rot here with dragons. So that was a bit misleading. I will say that. However, there is better, far, far, far better dragon writing. And I want you to read it. I'm not saying that our Andarna and Tarn are bad. They're fantastic. What wonderful dragons have been written. But going deeper into dragon story and dragon lore and how their brains work, and maybe stories from hatchlings to flying to bonding with dragon riders, like the whole story, we get that a little bit with Andarna, but there is more. So you have to start with Eragon. Now, Eragon has gotten some flack, and I think, I don't have it here. So pulled up. Eragon has gotten some flack, and that is probably because of the movie. It was actually written also by a very young author. The author, Christopher Paolini, was 15 when he started writing what I'm going to call is actually a modern masterpiece. Yes, there's flaws with it, but it has grown into a very well-loved book system. And a newer one was added to the system recently, which surprised me, which was Murtaugh. So I think there's 4 books in this series now. I don't know if there's more. But anyhow, wrote it at 15, published it at 19, and it is fantastic, especially if you want to get inside the brain of a dragon. So I say this, and hear me out. Saphira spoke so Andarna could sass. Yeah. So this was my first book with dragons talking with humans and talking with humans in their mind. So this is Saphira. And Saphira is an amazing dragon. Definitely has some sass. Definitely has a cool personality. She's by far the most favorite dragon that I have ever read. And I love Tarn. Tarn is my boy. And I still think Saphira is a better character. So if you love dragons, you need to read Eragon. Eragon is a book about a boy who finds a dragon egg. And he's a simple farm boy. He was never going to probably amount to anything. Live and die on that farm. the dragon egg actually called to him, and it shouldn't be able to. And nobody really knows much about dragon riders because they've basically been eradicated. There's this evil king who's basically killed off all the dragon riders, and he's kept the dragons to himself, and he has his own dragon rider army. Nobody else has dragon riders, so he's basically undefeatable. But then this dragon egg pops up that this boy finds. It kind of speaks to him. It hatches, and he's got to hide it because, like, this dragon's going to get killed, and it's this crazy complex story, and it's amazing, and Saphira is amazing, and it's so good. And there's an elf, and her name is Arya. And I just love this book. And you follow Eragon as he's learning how to become a dragon rider. And the story between him and the bond of him and his dragon is really one that I don't know that we're going to have written as well for a while. At least I haven't seen it. 2 other books for your dragon fix that I'm not going to go into as deep as I did with Eragon, but are fun reads. One is Dragonfall. This is a book that we read last year, and this is fun. The most fun part about this, if I'm quickly covering this, is that the dragon can morph into a human and has different versions of that form. And this dragon becomes attached to a human, and that love story so far is beautiful, and it doesn't go like into the crazy sexy spicy that I say is causing this romantasy rot that we need a little break from. Again, I'm gonna say I'm not giving it up. I just feel like we need to go like one book rot, one book not, one book rot, one book not. Anyway, this is slow burn. Mwah, so good. Okay. And then the last book I want to cover, again, we covered this one on the show too, is Dragon Rider. So I will say this is a book 1. It is probably one of the best book 1s I've ever read. Book 1s are usually build-up books, or maybe they give you like so much plot, kind of like Fourth Wing did, that you have to read the next one, or they either give you like more world building and you're leading up to it, but you're so curious you read the next one, right? This was in between those. So we got a ton of world building, and I can't wait to see where it goes. But then we also got fast-paced plot. So it's kind of in between like your Fourth Wings, where you're dumped with so much cool content. War college, dragons, love, teens are dying, what the heck? Magic. And then you get like the world building ones of like Swordcatcher here. So yes, right in between. It is so good. Another story of a dragon egg, actually somewhat similar to Eragon in that sense, but quite different. And then this dragon has quite a personality as well. So anyway, I strongly recommend Dragon Rider. It is the book that I rated the highest in our reads last year, and Rob rated it very high as well. I think it averaged out to be our highest rated book that we read last year. So there you have it. My recommendations for your romantasy rot fix. Now again, I'm not saying that romantasy rot is a bad thing. I'm just saying it's kind of like reading the greats. Like, so you got a taste of something cool with your Akatars and your Fourth Wings, but now we have to go back and read some of the really great ones like your Mistborns and the Eragons that sort of kind of started it all. If you want to go further back, sure, you can hit into your Shannara Chronicles and things like that, but I almost think that's too far back. I know some of you are going to say, oh yeah, there's older dragon books that are fantastic. I'm sure there are, but I tried to find ones that would mesh with some of the books that are out now. So that's why I say Mistborn and Eragon for your older books. And then that's why I brought up these books for some of your newer publications that might be written in the same style as the books that you're loving right now. I hope this helped you. I hope you pick up some new books. I hope you know a lot of this was me teasing you, but also teasing myself. So I'm definitely not pointing fingers unless all the fingers are pointed at me. Have a good one, everyone. Make sure to subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you next week for our coverage of Red Sister by Mark Lawrence.